Donc on est heureux d'avoir pour ce deuxième séminaire Science on Science in Innovation, d'avoir avec nous Francesco LISSONI. Francesco LISSONI, que je connais depuis 10 ans, est maintenant visiting professeur à Bordeaux, mais il est aussi professeur à Brescia, l'université de Brescia en Italie, et à l'université de Bocconi à Milan. Et il travaille depuis sa thèse. J'ai vu que sa thèse était en 1997. Je crois que je l'ai rencontré.
J'avais oublié.
Au SPRO.
Non, à Manchester.
Manchester, pardon. Je crois que je l'ai connu très peu de temps après. Et il travaille depuis très longtemps, avec beaucoup de persistance et avec beaucoup d'innovation, dirais-je, sur le thème des inventeurs académiques, des entrepreneurs académiques. Et il a notamment été l'un des premiers à mettre en évidence clairement sur les statistiques que beaucoup de brevets qui étaient attribués à des firmes, en fait, avaient comme inventeurs des universités. Ce qui change un peu la perspective, notamment aux États-Unis, mais aussi en France, sur les liens, disons, entre universités et entreprises. Ils sont plus importants que vous pouvez croire, au vu des statistiques qui n'étaient pas évaluées de façon satisfaisante. Donc il continue dans ce domaine, il a de nombreux projets, et je pense qu'il aura l'occasion de nous en dire un mot. Oui. Je vais lui laisser la parole. Il répondra peut-être pas aux questions les plus techniques, c'est pas une présentation académique où on va dans les détails, etc. Et ces questions, il pourra y répondre à la fin. Voilà, il est libre de répondre, mais vous êtes aussi libre de l'interrompre sur des questions un peu de fond.
Ok, merci Jacques, merci à l'OST pour m'avoir donné sa chance de présenter mon travail ici. Ce seront les seuls mots que je vais dire en français, parce que j'aimerais bien de faire ma conférence en français, mais comme on m'a dit qu'il y a deux films, alors c'est meilleur de ne laisser pas des témoignages de mon français. Okay? J'ai 2 enfants, il voyage tous les jours sur l'Internet, il peut me trouver parler en français. Mais je serais heureux de prendre les questions en français et de répondre en français, ça ce n'est pas un problème, hein, parce que c'est court. Okay? Alors, the research I'm presenting here is the slides I'm presenting here is just a summary of recent and less recent work I've done with different co-authors. So I just put my name here, but there are many other people who contributed to the research here with me. And it's a summary of some evidence on European academic patenting, and then of 2 more recent works which are dedicated just to France. And they are co-authored with Patrick Lerenat, and one with Bulat Sanditov, and the other with Antonio Della Malva. Let's go straight to the point. What is an academic patent? Thanks also to some of the work I present here, it is now increasingly common to use this word, academic patent, instead of a university patent, which has more of a US flavor. By academic patent, we mean any patent signed by at least one academic scientist. As a result of some name matching investigation that has allowed us to identify one inventor as an academic. Possibly an academic at the time of the patenting, not before, not after. And the fact that it may be just one inventor who can give the academic label to the patent, one has got to say that in most cases you don't find one academic inventor and all non-academic co-inventors. Usually academic inventors come in team. So these represent a good approximation of the contribution of academic scientists to inventive activity that goes through patenting. No matter whether the patent is owned by the university or by business company, public research organization, or the individual scientists themselves, the individual inventors. Actually, when we look at the statistics, These three types of organization, depending on the country, are almost always more important than universities as owners of the patents. The idea of moving away from statistics that were based on the property of patents to measure the contribution of universities to patenting, to inventorship, come from the fact that moving away from the US literature to the European literature, we and many others realized that the number of European countries hosted universities whose degree of financial autonomy, administrative capability is much, much inferior to the capability of US universities. And so even if they wish to, they wouldn't have, or they have acquired only recently, the ability to manage a patent portfolio. So in many cases, despite having the right to take patents over the university employees' inventions, many universities were very happy not to be bothered by this problem and to let professors take their own arrangements with companies, sponsors, and so on and so forth. In Scandinavian and German countries, a specific legal rule existed until recently, until 2000, 2004, still exists in Sweden. That is called the professor privilege, according to which university professors, differently from R&D employees of private companies, retain the right of patenting their own inventions, while usually a normal labor contract in the field of research includes the giveaway by the employee to the employer, the waiving of all rights, of all intellectual property rights. Italy is the only country that introduced the professor privilege while all the others were abolishing it. Okay? That says a lot of economic policy in Italy. And there is no in general a cultural heritage of dealing with intellectual property matter in universities in Europe as there is in the US, where universities and professors therein were confronted with IP issues starting in the second half of the 19th century with the creation of the land-grant universities, which were universities specifically created for doing applied research in agricultural and mechanical technology and to pass on this knowledge also through applications through universities. And there are also a number of long existing institutions in the US, such as the Research Corporation, the Wisconsin Alumni Research Foundation, that are now almost 1 century old and contributed to educate university administrators to the problem of taking patents, also ethical issues, licensing, and so on and so forth. Nothing of this, except something in the UK ever existed in Europe. So that all these historical analysis lead us to believe that even if many European academic scientists have an invention they wish to patent, they won't go through their universities. They will either do it personally with the professor privilege, sell the invention, not license, sell the invention, so the patent will not appear to be theirs, to a company or to another institution. Also, another issue is that in countries like France, the power of public research organization has always been very, very big, and they tend to retain intellectual property rights over inventions created in cooperation with universities. CNRS, that's the policy of CNRS. So why we are interested in academic patenting? APE stands for academic patenting in Europe. Being in France, I've learned that you have a passion for acronyms, so I'm trying to conform. Okay. As I said, recent research has proved, and we will see it, that academic patenting in Europe is quantitatively relevant. More doubts on qualitative relevance. Most important, a number of countries have adopted policies that tend to push universities to own the patents, to manage the patent, to try to make money with the patent. And we would like to have some background information to form a judgment on whether these policies make sense or not. Moving away from policy issues to more substantial, to more theoretical issues, we would like to see whether these academic inventors that appear in the arena, in the technological arena, are just peripheral players, people who occasionally have an invention and just patent, or they are important technological leaders in their field. They are relevant as inventors in their own field, on the technological side, not just on the scientific side. And the fourth reason is that I've discovered that it's a good way to get funds to discuss this issue. And actually, recently we were financed by the European Science Foundation, a project called Academic Patenting in Europe and Inventors. And here is the connection. And here it is, the web page. These are all famous academic inventors. This is your national hero. This is Lord Kelvin. This is the Italian national hero, Giulio Natta, inventor of polypropylene. And this is Ernst Abbe, founder of the Carl Zeiss optical company in Jena. Okay, and they are all old, just to stress the point that academic inventors have always been there. We simply have had a problem in measuring their existence and their relevance. Okay, so now I will review a little bit of basic evidence at the level of Europe, and it is based on all these articles. And then I will move on to the two papers on France. So just a quick precision point. In order to identify academic patent, we need first to reclassify all patents by inventors, which requires a lot of effort in terms of name disambiguation. And then after that, a further step that requires a lot of name disambiguation techniques, which is matching the name of inventors to the name of professors, try to clean the matching to make sense of the matching. And all these issues, we started many years ago with very, very naive techniques. More and more there is sophistication in doing this job because it has been proved that the quality of the first step impinges heavily on the type of results one gets. So one of the uses of the funds I showed you before were for funding, and the first workshop was here in OST, the name game workshop to discuss the disambiguation techniques. And now we have arrived to the point in which we have finally a free database on inventors that you can reach through this link and you can download once we will have fixed the problem of timeout, okay? So up to France you can download. When you move to Germany, the computer burns. So we still have some technical problem too. So we hope by 15 January to have solved all the problems. Forget about Japan because your computer will boil after a while. Okay, but the software is there. It's just that we are not rich enough to have a strong server. So an additional step to make sure that you don't have false positive after the matching, possibly, is to do some survey work. So for all the doubtful cases, ring up the professor or email the professor and ask, is this patent really yours or not? Okay, so the data I will present in the next slides are quite old. They're not yet the results of the project I showed you. So they stopped more or less in 2002, 2003. Most applications are complete only for 2001. The professors, another limitation of the work I will show you, are just a cross-sectional analysis of professors. So we don't have the historical data on all professors. So we just have the professor active in 1 year. So it means that we match the inventors for many years with professors active in 1 year. So the more we go back in time, the less accurate are our measurement, and we have a downward bias, a negative bias in our estimation of the number of academic patents. Having said this is just an introductory figure. These are for 6 countries, the number of academic professors we identified with patents from 1994 to 2001, more or less. Italian professors are those active in 2004, France 2005, Denmark is 2007, Netherlands 2004, and so on and so forth. As a percentage of all professors in the hard sciences, because we don't even consider political sciences, humanities, they range from almost 3% in the Netherlands to 4%, 4.5%. And these are people who are confirmed, we are sure. So this is a conservative estimate because all these people answer to the phone and say, yes, it's me, I'm the inventor. If we go to an upward estimate, depending on the quality, since the quality of the data changes a lot, we can go up to 11% in Denmark, and that's easily, the jump is very big because everybody's called Anderson or Johansson, so there is a high possibility of false matches, to 6 for France, 3 for the Netherlands. Some of this data depends also on institutional definition of what is an academic scientist. the estimate for the Netherlands is very low because they have a number of sponsored chairs. And these industry-sponsored chairs, they work half-time for the university, half-time for the company. So you ask, is this patent yours? Yes, but I did it in the afternoon when I'm working at the company. So don't count it as an academic patent. So it's also, there are also a number of difficulties like this. In
France, do you have the public research organization?
No, here not. In the paper I will show you, the last paper I will show you, we also have the public research organization. This is the technological distribution of patents using OST classes. So this is the 7 entry classification with 4 of the 7 classes explicit and all the others squeezed in here. So if you know, because you know all this data, you see immediately that the distribution of patents by technology is all biased towards pharma, chemical, instruments, and electronics, with a very little presence in mechanical engineering, consumer goods, and so on and so forth. And this is basically the same distribution you see in the US. So in terms of technological contents of the patents, or the academic patents in Europe don't differ much from university patents in the US, with pharma and biotech being the big field of university inventions. You see some differences in the other fields, which depend clearly on demand side, on the industry side conditions. And this is clearly seen by Italy and France, where you have a high presence of chemical patents due to the historical importance of the chemical industry in these 2 countries. While on the contrary, in pharma and biotech, you see the huge presence of Denmark, because they had for 15 years now policies to push for biotech explicitly through university. In Sweden, of course, you got electronics, because big giants in each country that influence heavily the type of patenting, and here you have Ericsson, which explains this huge peak. The ownership, as I said, these are data not from our research, from the US. It's a combination, a manipulation of data from US sources, not from our research. And it's a guess estimate of the distribution of academic patents in the US, and we estimate more or less that 70% of academic inventions belong to universities. And these are the patents that have attracted all the attention since the approval of the Bayh-Dole Act and so on and so forth, that explain the boom of university patenting in the US. If you compare them to Europe, you see that immediately the difference. The country with the largest percentage of university-owned academic patents is the Netherlands, followed by the UK. And all the others have less than 10%, or around 10% of academic patents owned by universities. How do we explain that? Well, it's an institutional feature. Clearly, the UK and the Netherlands have 2 academic systems that imitate or are very similar to the US one in terms of autonomy of universities, autonomy of recruitment. The contract of the professor with the university is a private law contract. There are no job competition, no concours d'agrégation, pas qualification, pas maîtrise de no court judgments like in my case in Italy. Okay, you go, you sign your. And that means that even at the level of the technology transfer office, you recruit on the market expert people who can deal with the patents. It also means that the university is master of their own finances, so they may have an interest in retaining the patents and so on and so forth. In other universities, in other countries like Italy and France, professors are civil servants. Even administrative staff has to be recruited according to very strict rules. It's not that easy to manage a patent portfolio. Then you see that the most of the patents are owned by companies. And then you see also some differences which depend on the legal conditions of the country. Sweden and Denmark have a high percentage of these green shares, which are patents owned by individuals. And you expect it because these are the countries with the professor privilege, where the professor can take the patents in his own name without asking anybody. So individuals end up owning many of these academic patents. And in France, where there is la puissance del CNRS et de l'INSERM, you have almost 1/4 of the academic patents owned by CNRS, INSERM, le Commissariat de l'énergie atomique et toutes les autres organizations. There are problems in interpreting these patents, these data on companies. We are trying to work out, because here is a huge mix. You may have Thales, which is a huge patent owner of the academic patents in France, but you may have also a small company about which you know nothing. And maybe that company, especially in these countries, maybe just the company owned by the professor who set up the company to own the patent and exploit. So we try to guess what's going on here. So this is a breakdown of university or of company-owned academic patents by type of company, judging on the portfolio of the company. So basically here in blue, this is the distribution of patents, not of owner patents, owned by companies. So in blue you have the percentage of patents owned by companies whose portfolio is entirely made by academic patents. And they have only no more than 20 patents. So there is a company, the company has no more than 20 patents, and 100% of those patents are academic patents. So the idea is that these blue patents are again individually owned, because basically it's a spin-off company, a startup company set up by the professor or a couple of people just to own and exploit the academic patents. So these are not companies that have their own innovation strategies and also interact within a university and have some patents. At the opposite, in green, you have companies with at least 5 patents, and in many cases they have more than 100 patents, with less than 20% of academic patents. So here you have, of course, Thales, Total, L'Oréal, Ericsson, ST Microelectronics. So these represent the share of patents owned by companies which clearly are exogenous with respect to the university system. Please.
What about the German universities?
German universities?
The previous paper.
We don't have German universities.
What about the situation in Germany?
We don't have German universities because the simple problem we will have at the end of this research, the one I presented, is simply that it was too big. Germany has got so many patents. There are 2 problems there. That doing the name matching is a total nightmare. Even for France, we had to cut the data to 1994. I'm presenting data back to 1994 simply because there is France. All the other countries have data that go back to 1975. But the university system in France is so big that if you want to call and survey all the professors, you go crazy. In Germany, it's even bigger. And the other problem of Germany is that Germany is a decentralized university system. So with France, you have a friend at the Ministry of University, and you get a list of all professors. You don't say around. And then you match. With university, with Germany, there is no list of professors. So until recently, simply there were not money enough to do all this work. Now a colleague has found a publication, which is, I don't remember the German name, is the Who is Who of the German university. It's all on paper, apart the last edition, is enslaving a number of undergraduates during the summer to write down all the names of the professor, so we can do the match. But it will come out at the end of 2012, I think. 2012. So there are some work done on this on French, on German data by colleagues. They simply look into the inventor name, whether there is the word professor, because Germans professor are very proud of their status. There are 2 problems. They get similar results to ours. Numbers are a bit of a problem because if you are an assistant professor and you put professor, the professor is not happy with you. So it means that you don't measure a number of assistant professors inventor. And the number of honorific professor title are inserted into the fields. So it's not very accurate. You don't really know. So, okay. So this was just to say that more or less we are pretty sure, apart Denmark, that the bulk of company-owned patents are really owned by companies. They are not owned by startups or professors disguised as companies. So this is the change of perspective. If you measure the university patenting in a traditional way by looking at the ownership, and this is the percentage of university-owned patents over the total patents in the country applied for at the European Patent Office, you have the usual picture. The US, 4% of patents come from university, and miserable percentages for Europe. So the policymaker get all shaky and start saying we need more patents from university, okay? They don't contribute enough. Then if you measure by inventor, you see that the gap is not really there. For Sweden, Sweden is even better than the US. And even for Italy, it's not that depressing, okay? For France, it's not as big, but for France, the underestimation is even bigger than done for the other countries, because for the problem I told you that it was difficult to get, and because I got to confess that universities' websites of France are the worst in the world. You don't find anything. We have some programs to suck the email address, but a lot of French professors don't even bother to put their address anywhere. So you get miserable results when you try to contact them. So a number of people are simply unreachable. You know they work in a university, but they are ghosts. They don't appear anywhere. So, but they are active people. They publish a lot. They simply don't care. If you break down the percentage of academic patents over total national patents by technology, you see that in some fields you reach almost 10%, chemicals, instruments, engineering. But of course here there is also a huge quantity of patents from industry, so the percentage is still more or less at the national level. For the more traditional industries, it's not that big. For pharma and biotechnology, you can have even 1 out of 5, 1 out of 4 patents, and this is an underestimation, that come from university, from academic science. So I don't have time to see the figures here, but if you look at these academic inventors, most of these people publish a lot. They are much better scientists than the non-inventors. So you can presume that this is really academic science turned into patenting. It's not extra activity. So it really suggests that, as in the US, like anywhere, the technological determinant is there. Innovation in this field come a lot from universities. Then, these figures say nothing on the absolute size of invention in the country. But this is just what the share of contribution by universities, and we don't see so many big differences between Europe. Okay, quality, this is an ongoing paper, and ongoing forever. It will go on until I get a new job here in France and relax a bit. So this is a citation-based quality indicator of these academic patents. We try to figure out whether they are better or worse or the same. We don't open here the box of how difficult it is to measure the quality of patents, their economic value. It would require not a seminar, but a series of seminars, okay? So we just play a bit with the citations to see whether there are qualitative differences between academic patents and non-academic patents. So this is a forward, the number of forward citations received by the patent over the first 4 years, divided by the first 4 years, so yearly number of citations received. So this is the average forward citation divided by the lag, that is how long it takes basically for a patent to get cited for the first time. This is an index of generality. It basically says whether the citations received by the patent come from just one technology, the same technology of the patent, or many others technology. So whether the patent is closer to a general purpose technology rather than not. And this is originality. It looks at the backward citation of the patents, and it tells whether the patents cite other patents from many different technologies or not, whether it's a combination of different technologies or it's just a follow-up on the same. So these are the average values for non-academic patents, average and standard error, and these are the average and standard error values for academic patents altogether. So we don't see many big differences. When you see white, it means that any difference is not statistically significant, okay? T-test tell you that it's not significant. In green, it means that the value is higher than the average for non-academic. In red, less. This is the breakdown of academic patents depending on the owner. And it says that basically if an academic patent is owned by a company, the citation rate is higher than the non-academic patents. If it's owned by university, it's lower. If it's owned by the government, it's lower. But This does not depend on the intrinsic quality of the patents, because all patents, more or less, have the usual American qualities. They are more general and more original if they come from university, more or less. Okay? Please.
Do you have the data concerning not only ownership, but also of the inventor related to the university?
Yes.
Do you actually identify?
Yes, we know university by university.
Which university
yes.
is more productive?
Yeah, I tell you, in France it's Paris 6. Okay, it's also the only university that own a considerable amount of patents. I have them on another slide. So the top one is Paris Jussieu. I think there is also the Strasbourg. But like in Italy, universities in France don't appear to be, in terms of patents owned, very important. In terms of invention, it's the usual suspect. You do any intuitive ranking of where is the strength of science, look at the publication, you get also the classification by patent. Yeah, it's more or less the same. It doesn't change. There are some strange differences in other countries in terms of relevance, in terms of patent owned and patent signed. In the Netherlands especially, you have the Delft and the Leuven have the highest share of patent owned by the universities. But the most important producer of academic patents is Eindhoven. Simply all the patents are owned by Philips. So there is 0 patents owned by Eindhoven. They don't care, okay? So this is just to say that maybe it's not necessarily a good idea that universities own the patents if we are looking at technology transfer. And it may suggest that the problem has to do either with the fact that universities are not good at picking the right patents, or they may not manage them well, because this number of citations may depend on the intrinsic quality of the patent, on the existence or not of a good licensing strategy. So you have a good patent, you don't license it, nobody bids on the patent, nobody cites the patent. So it's not very clear yet whether this depends on a low quality of the invention or low quality of the licensing, okay? So we don't really know. Okay, just to make it very quick, because I've already killed all my time without even going to France. When you break down by country and you do the same analysis, this is very quick survival analysis. So basically we measure the risk of a patent to be cited, okay, like a risk of a person to die, okay? Very jolly stuff. Basically, and we break down the academic patents. The reference case is non-academic patents compared to academic patents owned by company, academic patents owned by individual, academic patents owned by university, and so on and so forth. And the 2 worst cases are Italy and France, where universities are the least autonomous in the world, okay? The most controlled. While, for example, in the Netherlands, you don't have any significant difference also in Sweden and in Denmark between patents owned by universities and non-academic patents. We have some strange cases here in Sweden we don't manage to explain. In the Netherlands, this is Philips again. This is the Philips dummy. Okay, it's patent by Eindhoven owned by Philips that explain this positive sign. So these results in general are still provisional. They contrast with the evidence that is typical of the US, which says that university patents are more cited, more important than non-academic ones. In Europe, we don't find this difference. Possibly we find some negative difference when the patent is academic and it is owned by the university itself, especially in Italy and France. So we just move quickly to other uses. Just want to show you this was just descriptive statistics. So one point that I said before that is relevant is that there have been a lot of policies trying to encourage universities to patent more. One of these policies, a piece of this policy was the Loi Allègre, Innovation Act of 1999. So with the limited data we have, because remember, with data ends in 2001, 2002 at most, so we don't have a very long time series, we were trying to look whether we could already detect some effect of this law in our patent data. Basically, whether the Loi Allègre pushed universities to own more patents than before, whether it went in the desired direction or not. So I don't give you a lecture on French policy because I've got only to learn. So basically, we don't look at all the pieces of legislation because they don't mention explicitly intellectual property. We concentrate on 1999 Innovation Act, because we found there's a problem here of okay. We concentrate here on the Innovation Act because there was some explicit provisions for IPR management. There were no changes to the Code de la Propriété Intellectuelle because it was just a law for university, it had nothing to do with intellectual property legislation. But there was an explicit mentioning in the law of commercial exploitation of ideas as the third mission of universities. There were incentives to create these services d'activité industrielle et commerciale, which we can describe as technology transfer offices inside the university, but with some possibility to staff with external personnel, and more business-like accounting rules. So some direction in relaxing a bit the rigidity of the system. And there were some provision that allowed for a favorable taxation for university-owned IPRs. At the time, some universities already had their technology transfer office, but it was external to university. So the idea was to bring it inside through these agencies and give a favorable taxation if the patenting by the university was done through these agencies. And there were also a number of guidelines, recommendations, such as adopt an IPR regulation statute in the university, and to enter into joint ownership agreements with industry that would regulate the co-ownership of patents in order to avoid unanimity rules regarding the management of these patents. So if you are co-owners of the patents, in the silence of any extra contractual agreement, there must be unanimity rules in deciding whatever you want to do with the patents. If you sign a contract aside that states clearly that one of the owners gives away some rights, so you may have a majority rule or a delegation of decision and so on and so forth, which makes licensing and so on easily to do. So this is the absolute numbers of patents filed by university in France. So everybody's happy, they show an increase here. The problem is this an increase because they patent more or simply because the panorama was more or less flat and simply the property changed and universities in France started patenting. Well, before they were not, but their academic inventors kept patenting all the time. So the idea of the paper is to try to capture this. So we test two hypotheses. One is, as the Innovation Act increased universities' propensity to own or co-own their own inventors' patents? Second, if one is true, as university share of patents increased at the expenses of the share of academic patents owned by public research organizations and companies or not. So there are a number of controls. One important is that some universities like Paris-Jussieu had for a long time their own technology transfer office or some organization to take care of patents. So they did not woke up only when the Loi Allègre arrived. While other universities, maybe more provincial ones, did have nothing until the Loi Allègre. Okay, let's skip a bit because we are in a hurry. So basically we categorize ownership of academic patents like C. It means that a company or an individual inventor, which in France are not many, compared to the US or other countries, own the patent, the academic patent. PROs are all this type of organization. One of these is owner or co-owner of the patent. University is owner or co-owner of the patent. Here look at ownership distribution. Here we have fractional counts because there may be co-owner, there may be a patent owned by a company and the university, so we cut it in two in this case and we put it in here, so fractional counts. So basically we notice that there are some differences across technological fields in terms of ownership of the invention. Pharmaceutical and process engineering have the highest percentage of ownership by university, and the same applies to PROs. When we move away from more science-based fields, the percentage of companies owning patents, of course, increases. And this is because basically patents in these fields have little value as a standalone piece of intellectual property. They need to be used in conjunction with many other inventions. So for the single university, there is not much incentive to own the patent. While with pharmaceutical, the hope to have the lottery ticket, the best-selling drug, is always there. So maybe a university wants to invest in it. So let's go straight to a logit regression. In this regression, we have the dependent variable is 1, 0, 1 for the university ownership. Among the owners, there is at least the university. It doesn't matter whether the property is exclusive or not. We simply check whether in the list of owner of the academic patent there is a university. The variables of interest are alternatively the ACT dummy, which is the Loi Allegre dummy, which is 1 after 1999, or year dummies for all the years, with 1999 as the reference year. So we basically want to see whether years before 1999 have a negative dummy and years after have a positive dummy to see whether there is an increase or a step. And then an important variable is TTO dummy, whether the university had for a long time or not a technology transfer office even before the introduction of the Loi Allegre. And then controller by type of university, grand établissement, scientific universities, polytechnics, and so on and so forth. Size of the university, in terms of some dummies for large, medium, and small university, depending on the distribution of staff, of teaching staff. So Paris-Jussieu is a large, and I don't know, some smaller university is small. Technology and regional dummies. Regional dummies are necessary because they capture demand condition in the region. So they may capture the demand for technology in the region or not, okay? So of course it's very different to be located in Paris than in Bordeaux. So this is the result of the regression. I will just give you the marginal effects. Marginal effects are estimated with all the other variables at 0 if there are dummies, or at a median value, average value, if they are continuous variables. These are the results for the variable of interest. We can concentrate in these two regressions. The others are less important. So we see that the act apparently increased the probability as expected of university to own these patents. In most cases, it's just co-ownership. In France, we almost don't find a patent exclusively owned by university. And if you use the dummies for here, we see a sort of step. 1999 is here, is the non-observed dummy. So, and we see that we have negative values before and positive values after. And these values are not very different apart from this. So it means that you don't have really an increase, a continuous increase. It looks more like a step, okay? And then we have more or less the values for 2000, 2009 are the same as 1999. And of course, but the most important variable in effect is not the Loi Allegre dummy, is having or not having the technology transfer office since a long time. So like many of these laws, it seems to scratch a bit the surface of the problem rather than going straight to it. These are a number of control variables. We don't have time to look at them. But this is the disaggregation of university we did. School of Engineering, universities without medical schools, universities with medical schools, which are the reference case here, scientific universities, and then the dummies and the sites. We also try to be a bit more accurate. We did also a multinomial logit analysis. The dependent variable here takes value 1, 2, 3. 3 basically is the university is one of the owner like before, no matter whether alone or with the PRO or with the company. Company ownership exclusive, whether the company is the only owner of the patent. And PRO ownership, it means that the CNRS is either the owner exclusive or along with a company. And basically what we see here, if we report the marginal values by each of the regression like they were probit regression, they are not, they are multinomial logit. So we see basically that for PRO, the dummy act is not very significant, although when you go through the years, we see that for public research organization, the passing of time led to some, not to a very clear trend, because we have the 3 years before the Loi Allegre, we have less probability of ownership, then for 3 years the same, then again less. For universities as before, apart from 1994, we see that before the Loi Allegre there was less probability of ownership, then there is more probability of ownership. And for companies, there was more or less before some stronger probability of ownership, exclusive ownership, and then a bit less, which suggests that actually what went on was what the legislator wished to, that now universities don't really take the property by themselves. They just want to be added to the list of applicants of the inventor. Okay. Then, okay, there are some differences here when we look at the type of universities, and these are more important than the effect of the Loi Allègre. So, for example, universities without medical schools and scientific university tend to have a lower probability, other things equal, to be listed as co-owners of the patents. And this is because, remember, the underlying case is university with medical schools. University with medical schools have a general propensity to try to retain the patents, because in general the patent they deal with are like pharma and biotech patents, for which there is more interest by the university to retain the patent itself. There is any hope to commercialize the patent, make some money. They want to have a say in the bargaining with the company. While many of these patents come out of research contracts with companies, they are just components of a big innovation project that is totally under control of the company, so universities are not interested in taking a patent. Okay. So basically, conclusion that I will include here, don't present you the inventors, the network stuff. French universities own only a minor share of their scientists' patented invention. This is due to institutional factors. It has nothing to do with the technological distribution with their patents, because we have seen it's the same as in any other country, more or less. The ongoing changes in the institutional setting increase the co-ownership of patents at the expenses of companies' exclusive control. Do we like it? Are we sure we are happy with it? Having seen the quality of university-owned patents in France, we may say, well, it's better they mind their own business and leave the management of patents to companies who know how to do it better. In any case, those universities that own patents in France didn't wait for the Innovation Act to be there. If you look at Paris-Jussieu, they had their own policies long before then. They had their own technology transfer office. Having a history of technology transfer office is more important. And of course, there are differences between type and size of universities, which suggest that one should be cautious in pushing universities to take patents, possibly according to the type of university we are discussing, rather than just figuring out as many. Okay.